Good afternoon, Year 9, and welcome back. This is Miss Dooner here, and you've made it through your first week of virtual school for summer term 1, and we're now at our ASL assembly slot. I hope you're all well. So, as always, then our thinking point, we're always thinking about our motto, and that is work hard and be kind. So how did you epitomise our motto in the Easter holidays? I really hope you paid attention to that second part about being kind. I hope you were kind to yourself. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter have been really kind to themselves, been doing a lot of reading, some exercise, getting out in the sun safely where they can. And also some of you still working really hard, even in Easter, whether that's you've been doing stuff around the house, baking, or even some of you have been doing some revision and things, so that's absolutely brilliant. And how has your first week back been? Has it been nice to come back and speak to your teachers and get back into a routine? Has it been challenging after you've been having your lie-ins and being able to relax a little bit? I hope it has been worthwhile and that you are glad to be back. I know I am, and I know a lot of your teachers really are. So yeah, it's good to have you back. Today, because we've only been back a week, I wanted to share with you a method that might help some of you while you're learning online virtually. So for this ASL assembly, I'm just going to talk you through a revision tip that I'd love to see you using really, and it's called Cornell note taking, sometimes called the Cornell method. I know some of you, especially if I've taught you, will have used this method before, but for some of you it might be completely brand new. So all it is a way of taking notes. So when you're sat on your laptop or on your tablet or wherever you are doing virtual school, this might be the way that you make your notes and you take note of the things that your teachers are advising or from the knowledge book. So the Cornell note taking method is shown kind of by the diagrams on this slide. I am going to show you a video of how to do it in a second, but just so you can get a brief overview. It's basically a way of setting your page out. You could do it on the computer, or it's easy to do it by hand on a notepad or piece of paper. So you have kind of 4 sections. The top section is your title of the lesson. It might be a small question and you put the date there as well. Then you have, as you can see on the diagram on the left, a note section with a shaded bit in pink, and this is where you will make your notes for that lesson. So it might be from your knowledge book, some questions your teacher's posing. You're going to make all your notes in that box. The margin section is a little bit different. It's quite small, and this is just where you kind of consolidate your knowledge. So you are kind of bringing everything you've learnt together and pushing yourself that little bit further, maybe to summarise any key words that popped out, any kind of comments that you've noticed. So you might have noticed something and want to make a note of it in that margin, or even questions that you might have for your teacher, for your classmates about that topic. And the bottom section is probably my favourite and the most important section, and that is where you summarise what you've learned, and that is something that you come back to a little bit later. You don't have to do it on the day, you'd come back to that when you're revising. So that's a brief overview. I'm now going to show you via a video I've recorded how you set your book up and how you might use it. So I'll let the video play and hopefully that will make it a bit clearer. So I've got my blank notebook, or you could use a blank piece of paper, whatever you like, and I'm going to start laying it out now in the Cornell Notes method. So to start off with then, I'm going to create the area for the title. Sorry, I don't have a ruler, I'm being naughty. So this is going to be the title. My notebook has a little section already, but if yours doesn't, you just make it kind of that big, kind of about 1 inch thick if you can. We now need to make kind of the note section, so I'm going to draw a line down here. You'll see that this line is about the same as the top, so this is creating like a margin like what you have in maths. And now I'm going to make the note section at the bottom. Now this bit needs to be a bit thicker, so I'm going to double this size probably. On mine I'm going to go for kind of about 8-9 lines, and I'm going to draw it across like so. Now this then is the basic layout of Cornell, so you can see it's kind of like an I, capital I on a slant, and this is how I'd lay it out. So obviously as an English teacher I'm going to pick something to do with English, so we're doing inspector calls at the minute. So say I wanted to do some revision about Sheila, I might start off just by writing the title as her name for now, so I'm going to put Sheila. If this was in maths, You could write trigonometry. If it was in science, it might be that you're looking at different cells. Whatever it is, that would be your title. You could even put your small question here if you wanted to keep it really, really focused. Obviously, this isn't very pretty, but you could also do your cool fonts here as well. I also always write the date, just so I know for my revision what date I did this work on, just in case I ever want to look back. So I write that up there. Okay, so now we've got our title. This would be where we start to apply our knowledge. So anything new that you learn about Sheila, or anything you're kind of revising about Sheila, would go in here. So obviously I don't have the knowledge book right here in front of me, but say I was looking at quotes about Sheila, I might start writing down what the knowledge book says. So when she says to her brother, "You're squiffy," that's quite an important thing. It might be that I'm reading my knowledge book and then it says how she changes, and at the end it says, "It frightens me the way you talk." And this is where you're just kind of dumping all that knowledge that you're learning. It might be that you see certain words in there, like you might see the word socialist. And other words to describe Sheila, and you'd write all of those in this knowledge section here, everything that you're learning, whether it's new, whether it's revision. So this might go on for quite a few pages. It might be that the lesson you're doing on virtual school is just kind of a short hour-long one, and it might fit in there, and that is where all your knowledge is going to go. Now it's time to turn our attention to this bit. Now this bit, I often get another colour, and this is where, if it was in school, I'd use a green pen. This is where I consolidate that knowledge. So I read what I've written, what maybe Miss has taught me in science, or what I've learnt from the knowledge book in whatever lesson I'm in, whether it's business or PE, and I read it and I consolidate it over here. So by consolidate, I mean I'm absorbing it, and I'm then starting to think about keywords that are standing out to me. I'm starting to notice maybe questions that might arise from it. So just as an example, I wrote down here the quote, "You're squiffy," and then "It frightens me the way you talk." Well, I know that's from Act 1, and I know that's from Act 3. So this shows me Sheila's change. So here I'd write Sheila changes, just so I'm consolidating that knowledge. I can see she's changing as well from kind of someone quite capitalist and judgmental to someone more understanding. Because look at the way she's talking to her brother, "You're squiffy." She's really accusing him, isn't she? But then in the end, she's almost in disbelief that that's how some people think. So it shows a really big change. So this is kind of where you can consolidate things. You might drop some keywords in there, but also it might be that you start having some questions here. So you might look at that and think, hang on a minute, yes, Sheila changes, but why? So you might write that down. Why does she change? Why does she change? And then what you can do with that question is you could find that out yourself. You could go and revise that if you wanted to, or you could go onto Teams and ask your teacher, "Sir, Miss, why does Sheila change?" It might be that you pose that to the class, and then you can start answering it. So there we've got our kind of main key content box, and then we've got our kind of key questions and consolidation box. The final part of Cornell Notes is this last box at the bottom, and this is the most valuable part of it. And actually, this is the part you'll probably not use for in some cases, weeks, in other cases, months, or it might be that you choose to do it a bit sooner and do it a few days after. So say you've just done your lesson, say it's a Tuesday, double English, you've learnt about Sheila, you've written all your notes here, you've thought about maybe some key questions and things like that. Then what the best thing to do is to leave it, to put it to one side, and then to go about your other lessons, to go to science, to go to maths, whatever you've got next. And then a few days later, maybe with your next literature lesson, maybe just before you log on, maybe when you're doing your recall quiz, this box here, as it says, is your summary. And this is where you would read through all of your notes that you've made, all of your consolidation questions, and summarise what you've learnt from them. So just to show you what that might look like, a few days later, a few weeks later, I've gone back to my notes and I've read through it, and
it's made me remember everything that I learnt that day, and it's made me able then to summarise it really concisely at the bottom. So Sheila is a character who is initially materialistic and judgmental. However, she changes to become a young woman who is more understanding and even has socialist tendencies. So this is the most valuable section in my opinion, but it's only valuable if you leave it a little bit and always come back to it. And this is what revision is. You're bringing all of this understanding back to the forefront of your mind. So it might be that you can do this for all of your subjects. You can keep this revision ticking over, but definitely this method really helps.
So now you've seen my attempt. These are some examples from year 9 of some nearly finished products. You should be able to see why they're nearly finished. So these are 2 examples from year 9 when we were doing an Inspector Calls. These are 2 students that have been making brilliant notes about Inspector Gould. So as you can see, both of them actually have a title of the inspector. They've also both put in the small question, which is really good for their revision. And you can see the one on the left has got the date, so they know when the lesson was if they need to refer back to it. They've both got note sections. And they both have something in common, actually, their note sections. They're both really engaging, aren't they, to look at. The one on the left is full of highlighting and colour coded absolutely brilliantly. And the one on the right is really good for diagrams and pictures. And this student is going to easily remember all of this note taking because of the pictures. It will help them bring the memory of these notes back into their brain quicker. So that's a really good tip that this student's used. You can also see both of the students have kind of consolidated their knowledge as well in the margin with keywords and comments. You can see the student on the right has got key definitions that they wanted to remember and also a little theory. And the student on the left has got green pen to help them reflect even further. So I really like that. You'll notice that both students have a blank summary page, and you should know now why that is. When these photos were taken, these 2 students had just made their notes, they'd just completed all of that work. So I would imagine while they're sat at home during virtual school, they would probably go back to these notes, hopefully, and summarise what they've learned, and that would be some brilliant revision. So that is one top tip that I can give you in regards to working virtually and from home. And I know loads of you are really getting to grips with it and are working really hard. I just wanted to draw your attention to our year group Teams page. So if you go onto Microsoft Teams, I know lots of you have seen that we have our own year group Teams page called Year 9 Oldersy Students, and I really recommend, if you haven't already, having a little look on there, because throughout the day you'll see lots of motivational messages from lots of different members of staff really cheering you on, and we are all there to support you. Just as a reminder, I've popped mine and Miss Brown's emails down for you. So if you have got any concerns, any queries, anything you want to ask, obviously you can approach any teacher that you feel comfortable with, but mine and Miss Brown's emails are there. We are both on our emails and on our laptops, as are all staff, from 8:30 till 4 every day. So if you are stuck or struggling with anything, please do let us know. And with that is the end of our assembly. So just as always, a thinking point then before you head off and have your lunch and enjoy your last 2 lessons before the weekend. A final thinking point. I've shown you today the Cornell Notes method. Some of you may think it looks quite interesting, you want to give it a go. I really hope you do. Think when you could try that out. Could you try it out this afternoon when you're in your lessons? Maybe you want to give it a go in science, in English, in one of your option subjects, anything. Maybe you just want to do it in all of them. Try it out, whether it's this afternoon or Monday. Just test it in one lesson and see how you get on. I'd love to hear from you. Maybe you could tweet me some pictures, email me what you think, any feedback. I'd love to hear how you're getting on and see some brilliant work and give some points out for it. The other thing is, based on that Cornell Notes method, is about the margin, where you kind of write down any keywords or questions that you might have. Have a think this week, if you really want to challenge yourself, what questions you could ask in lesson to challenge yourself even further than you are. So some of you are silent assassins in the lessons. You sit there and you download the work and you do it really well, you submit it, and you don't ever speak or get in touch really with the teacher, which is understandable, you're working really hard, but could you challenge yourself next week to pose a question to your teacher to secure your understanding further? Maybe if you don't understand something, maybe if you do and you've got a theory that you want to run by them, maybe even if you can see someone in the chat, if your teacher has that allowed, if they are struggling and they are asking the teacher something, could you maybe offer some support? So there's a little challenge for you this week, and I can't wait to see what you get up to. With that in mind, have a lovely weekend, stay safe, and I will see you all on Monday.